For Off the Block, I'm Vinny Lopes, and we are now joined by UCLA men's volleyball head coach John Speraw as his team is preparing for the NCAA tournament. And Coach, I want to ask you, you have a little bit of time off to prepare for your upcoming match. What has this week been like for UCLA in the gym?
Well, we gave them a day off on Monday, and then spent a lot of time on logistics. Obviously, the tight turnaround is always, with the NC2As too, the group always gets larger too. There's always more people coming along, and it becomes a much bigger event. So trying to figure out all the logistics takes a lot of time. Actually, having this week off is pretty nice, so we can organize for that. And then started training yesterday, and obviously just trying to get a little bit better. So hopefully we can get a little bit better this week. Obviously, we came up short versus BYU and didn't serve the ball real well, so obviously that'll be an emphasis for us.
Yeah, Coach, I do want to ask you, a non-characteristic serving performance for you guys against BYU. What is the way that you kind of adjust that and work with that in practice? Is there anything particular serving-wise that you're going to focus on?
No, it's pretty individual. Each guy has his own thing he needs to work on, so we're taking a closer look at that. And I don't know that we're changing much about what we're going to do. Obviously, that was a real tough night for us, but that's not that characteristic for how we serve the ball this year. We've been a pretty good serving team. So, obviously, getting another crack at it. And I know that most of those serves when we were at BYU were not altitude-related, but I think it will be a little bit easier to go serve at Penn State's gym than BYU's. And so I think we'll come back and serve real well against whoever we play in that first-round game, Ohio State or George Mason. Both are great teams.
Yeah. And, Coach, I want to ask you a little bit about experience, because for all your players, this is going to be their first NCAA tournament experience, but for you, you have experience as both a player and a coach. How valuable is that experience for you getting your team ready for their first time in the tournament?
I actually think it's really valuable. I learned a lot over my years with UC Irvine going to Final Fours, particularly that first one in 2006 when we lost to Penn State in 5, and then coming back the next year in 2007 and winning that first championship. That was a really big learning curve. Because you're right, the first time you go, it's a very different experience for both the coaches and the players. So getting to know that environment is really important. So I feel good about it. I kind of know a little bit of the hurdles and the environmental changes that we need to prepare our guys for, and hopefully I'll have learned a couple lessons along the way that I can help these guys be a little bit more successful on their first time there.
Yeah. And looking at your season, you guys started at Penn State, playing in a non-conference tournament there. I want to ask for your thoughts. Just how valuable is it to know kind of the facility that you're going into and having played there going into the NCAA tournament? How much does that help you guys?
I think it does. I've always been a fan of trying to do that, and certainly the Pac-12 Big Ten challenge that we're setting up for the next few years is designed around that concept. So next year we'll go to Ohio State, and then the third year we'll be coming here to UCLA because we're hosting in 2018. So I think it's great. I think it's helpful for the guys to know the environment. Of course, we're playing teams that play there more than us in that first-round game. Obviously, an EIVA team, and Ohio State goes there every year. And so the advantage is still probably a little bit with our opponents in that regard, but the fact that we've been there a little bit helps.
Yeah. And, Coach, I want to ask you, looking at the season as a whole, what has been the biggest surprise about your team this season in your eyes?
Just the fact that the 6-2 works so well. I really felt like that was quite an experiment, and one that we didn't really spend that much time preparing for. We didn't even use it during the fall. Well, I take that back. We used it for literally one or two, maybe 3 practices before our last fall competition. And we just kind of took a look at it, and then I can't even remember who we were playing, Northridge or SC. We threw it out there for the first time. And so we liked it and really went into the early part of the season thinking that we continued to take a look at it, but we weren't sure we were going to do it yet. And here we are 3-4 months later and in this position. I think that's probably the biggest surprise of the season.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about the 6-2, and how you initially came up with it. Was it just one practice? You were looking at stuff and saying, give this a try? Was it an assistant coach who came up with the idea? How did it originate?
I'm not sure who really came up with the whole concept, but it was really just looking at our personnel. I think every coach just tries to figure out a system that works best for his personnel, and that could change from time to time depending upon how your personnel changes. We obviously have the great fortune of having a number of guys in our program that are really well-rounded, diverse volleyball players. Micah Maha being one of them, Hagen Smith. But JT Hatch set in high school, he can do it all. Jake Reeves can do it all. We originally recruited him as a setter, and then he's been playing outside for us. And so we really had 4 guys that we could have in the gym that could run a 6'2". And so we looked at what we had and decided just to give it a shot. And really, Micah really probably pushed the envelope there a little bit because he is so offensive and yet can be such a great setter for us too. And I think just trying to figure out how to get him to do all the things that we need him to do probably was the instigator for making that happen.
Yeah, well, I do want to ask you about the versatility because, as you said, you have players who are so versatile. Is that really something that you placed an emphasis on in recruiting, finding players who could play multiple positions?
It certainly helps. That's a case-by-case basis, too. Obviously, if you need a big middle and you can go find a big guy and you can't necessarily do everything, it doesn't stop you from going and recruiting. But once we get into the gym, I really do believe that we need to help our guys become the most versatile players that they can be. I believe that's really important at the next level. I think at this level in college, if you're a big 6'10" middle and you can't ball control, you can get away with it, but at the international level, you really can't. And so the ability to play the whole game can be so advantageous. And so we certainly spend a lot of time training that here at UCLA.
All right. And, Coach, I do want to ask you a question about Micah Maha. How is the feeling for you as a coach when you see him jumping over chairs or going to the stands to get a ball? Or, I know that you want him to play, but are you all nervous about, oh, good gosh, I hope he doesn't get injured here?
Yeah, you bet. After he did that the first time in Hawaii early in the season, I said, don't do that again. and of course, he's done it a couple more times, but usually comes over there, he's so fast that he gets over there in a pretty controlled manner. Like, he literally gets there and is able to get pretty vertical and over the chairs. Unlike some players I've had who just literally go diving over the chairs, he's literally jumping over them. So his athleticism allows him to get away with it a little bit more than others.
Definitely. All right, Coach. Well, final question. We'll let you go on this because I know you're not only preparing for the NCAA tournament, but I'm sure that you have the Olympics in the back of your mind, coaching the U.S. men's national team. Just how intense is this time of the year for you right now?
It's getting to be a little intense. Obviously, you're going to the Final Four, so there's an intensity to that you can't replicate. And then of course we're starting to dial it up in Anaheim. Guys are coming home. And, we'll start getting things going here pretty quick. I'll miss our first match. We play Japan May 6th, so I'll miss that no matter what happens on that first night. There's a little bit of intensity to it, but I don't know. I have such great staff at USAV with Furbringer, Mike Wall, and Nate. I just have so much great support down there that the guys are in good hands, and we're really well organized for the summer, and the logistics are all handled, and the game plans are done, and so we're just going to get in the gym and get things rolling as soon as I get home. I definitely don't get a vacation. Yeah. We'll probably, if all goes well, we'll come home this weekend or next weekend, and then I'll probably take Monday to wrap things up here, and then I'll be in the gym running practice Monday morning or Tuesday morning. So, I just don't stop coaching. I think that's the biggest change for me. I don't necessarily really have an off season, but it's been great, and I think all the